Hey.
Hey!
Sister Betty Thomas, I want to thank you for coming on with me. I am so appreciative of your time.
It's a blessing and an honor.
Amen. Amen. I want to just have you come on to Daughters of the King to share your testimony when you used to come out to the church. Girl, I knew you had a testimony the way you would cry out to God, okay?
Yeah.
I knew it was deep and I knew it was real. So talk to me. Tell me about some of the experiences you had in your life, like your childhood. How was your childhood like when you were growing up?
My childhood was strange. It was more like, even as a child, I was searching for love. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel, accepted or wanted. Not sure why. I just didn't. And I felt different, from my sisters and brothers. There was 5 of us total. And I don't know, I just felt like I didn't fit in, and I was always trying to please and lost myself as a child. I had the older sister, the older brother, then the younger sister and the younger brother. And I just, where was I, and how did I, fit in to that?
Right. So tell me about high school. How did you manage, feeling lost and needing more in high school and elementary?
Needing more in high school, I kind of clung to people. I wanted to make friends. I needed to make friends, and I needed that to establish who I was for some reason. And so, in high school, I was searching for love in all the wrong places, trying to fit into everybody's category, to find, who I was, but I wasn't finding out who I was. I was becoming who they were and who they needed me to be. And so I didn't really find myself. So myself never really came out.
So you shared with me a few weeks back that you ended up being pregnant in high school.
Yes.
How was that experience?
That experience was a horrific experience. It was just to the point where there was this, boy that, I don't know, I just needed love, and I was searching for it, and I took what I can get. And if that makes any sense. But when I got pregnant, it was just mind blowing to me. I didn't understand it. I didn't, I just knew, didn't tell anybody, and so we told his parents or whatnot. And I couldn't tell my mom because I didn't want to die. No, but I couldn't tell my mom because I was afraid to tell. We didn't have that communication where I could talk to her like that and not feel fearful. And so we talked to his mother first, and his parents, and it was the worst ever. I just thank God for getting me through that, because I was told, that I messed up his life, that I would never be anything, and now I have to live in, project homes or something like that because, I'm having a child or whatever. And they talked me into getting an abortion. And so we didn't believe in abortion in our home. And so I definitely wasn't going to tell my mom, but I was a people pleaser. And so I did. I told my mom a story, and I stayed at their house, and that's where we left from. And I thought that his mom was going to take me, but that was not
so it. So let me ask you this. Based off of what you just said, you said that they said that it was pretty much your fault. You ruined the young man's life.
Yes, because they threw all this money on the bed, telling him how I messed up his college, and now, he's not whatever. I mean, they threw it in like I was nothing. They made me feel like I was just nothing at all. And, I had no purpose, no worth. And I didn't have my parents with me, so I didn't have anybody. It was them against me, the world. It was like the world against me. And so, it was very hard. So it was made to look like it was my fault. But the worst was she didn't even take me.
Right.
He had her husband take me. Well, he literally didn't take me. We drove in the car, me and the boy together, and he drove behind us. And while he did that, he was making sure that the deed was going to be done.
I can only imagine what everybody was going through, in regards to that situation, because it's a scary thing.
Yes.
Your life does flash before you, and you're like, what am I going to do? I don't understand. At that time, you may not even had known what your future was going to look like, because
Not at all.
unfortunately in high school, we're supposed to have a plan for our life.
That's right.
But most of us don't. We barely make it through high school.
Right.
So, it's like, yeah, we just want to get out. But, so you're traveling up the road, and then you get
Yes.
to this place that is supposed to, now, I'm going to use the words, violate your body, because
Yes.
that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, when you pulled up to the place that you didn't know where you were going, how did that work out? Like, how did you feel about that?
Well, literally, as we were driving there, I was in this whole new world, like lost, like, oh my God, I've never been here. So I'm sightseeing. So it has not clicked in my head what is about to happen, and then we get there and it still hasn't clicked in my head. We're walking into building and I'm just happy go lucky, just walking. I've always been the type that just smile and go. And I get there, and next thing I know, I'm signing my name. And that's when it hit me. And I realized that, okay, something is about to happen and I don't like it. But I sat there quietly, people pleaser, and they called my name back. And I went back, did everything, got dressed, as they told me. And I started to get nervous. And the doctor came over and he said it was going to be okay. But his voice did not sound like it was going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so I waited, and he walked away, and the nurse, I just seen stuff. Everything was clicking. Everything was loud. And I started crying, and I bolted out of the room, jumped up off the table, bolted out, ran. I didn't even know where I was going. I couldn't see. I was crying. I ran and I was going. And finally I made it to the waiting room, and I seen the boy, and I jumped into his lap because I wanted him to help me. That was my cry for help. No, I don't want to do this. This is not right. I know it's not right. It doesn't even feel right. And I was crying and I was crying and I was crying. He didn't say a word, but I heard his father sitting on the side of this. He said, handle that. And he got up and left. And I started crying harder because I had no one. I had no one. I didn't even know how to get in contact with my mom. I didn't even know where I was. And so the nurse had came out, and she said, honey, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And she grabbed my hand, and her voice was so sweet. And so I followed her. Mm-hmm. And next thing I know, I woke up, and it was just like, it just happened. I felt lost. Mm-hmm. I felt lost when I woke up, and I knew something had happened, and I knew it wasn't right. And they walked me out, and I looked at him expecting sympathy or something. And he just said, you ready? And like at that moment, my mind literally went somewhere else. And so half of me came back, and so on the car ride home, it was quiet. It was like I was outside of myself. And, I didn't even go in. I got in my car and I drove home, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I couldn't explain it. I didn't know what really had happened, but I was violated, and not something I wanted to do, but I allowed it to happen to myself. Mm-hmm. And so I made it home, and I remember going up the stairs, and I usually don't make noise because my mom worked at night, but I was making noise because I wanted her to come. I wanted her to come and hold me and tell me everything was okay. Even the note that they gave me, the after, have it and the instructions you're supposed to do, I left it, I tucked it, I hid it just in case she was cleaning and she would find it. But I wanted to tell her, but I couldn't tell her. And so I laid on my bed and I cried. And she said, Betty, is that you? I said, yes, Mom, I'm fine. And she said, well, don't make a lot of noise because I got to go to work tonight. And so I laid down and I just cried. And the next day, I couldn't stay home. How was I supposed to stay home without telling my mom? I got myself ready and I went to school. And was that the worst thing? I kept hearing this chatter. It was just like every chatter was everywhere. You know, like they knew, they were looking into my soul, and they knew. And I was trying to smile because it hurt so bad because I knew they knew. But I just wanted somebody to say, it's okay. I wanted the love that I needed. And that's how it went.
Leaving that abortion clinic, you know, being in recovery. I don't know how your recovery was, but being in that recovery, I cried my heart out. Like,
Yeah.
I felt so, and I kept apologizing. I was like, I'm sorry. And I wasn't apologizing to my mom because she was the one that ended up taking me. I had hid it from my dad. And I don't think my dad knows to this day, because my dad don't play. He don't play. I'm just thinking about that now. I don't think he knows. Y'all, I'm 41 years old, y'all, and I didn't send y'all at 17.
I know how that feels, yes.
But yeah, so you know, like the emotions and everything behind it, and you know, growing in the Lord, knowing now, you realize that your spirit, the spirit of God was weeping, you know. A lot of people don't even understand that it doesn't matter where you are, the spirit of God is in you somewhere, you know.
And yes, and with you always.
Yes, and and he draws you back to the Lord. You can feel him a little bit here and there, but you know, that's the voice that says, don't do this, don't go there. And you may not understand it, but it's, you know, it's the spirit of God. So I really felt like it was the spirit of God that was grieving, and I was apologizing to God, not knowing, because I didn't know nothing about God. I wasn't raised in the church, you know, so I'm out here.
See, I literally at a young age love the Lord. I love singing. I love praise. And I didn't even know at a young child that the Lord had been with me. And because as a young child, I was raising my hands, but I was happy because the singing was amazing, you know, and I loved to sing. So, you know, and I was feeling him then, but I didn't know what I was feeling. I just felt great. That's where I found joy. I was happy, you know, all the problems that, you know, that not feeling love, that at that moment when we were at church, I felt that love. I didn't know what it was. I wanted to stay there, but I couldn't. But at that moment, that's where I felt his love, but I didn't know that that was him.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it's just all out throughout my life when I see what I've been through and what I've gone through. And I said, God, you were there.
Yes.
You know, and there's some roads that I traveled, but it's not that God did that. Those are roads that I chose to travel.
Yes.
You know, because his word says that he came to give us a hope and a future, not to harm us. But if we choose to travel those roads, then we have to suffer the consequences that come with traveling those roads. But God is so faithful and so great that he is with us even still. Even when we go through those roads, he's still there.
Yep. Isn't it amazing? I had a vision. God gave me a vision. Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, I'm not sure. But this is the crazy part. So the vision was me and Jesus, we was walking down a road together. We were walking side by side, and we was having a good time. And God, the spirit of God was letting me know that I was like in tune with the Lord, right? We were walking together, holding hands, but up ahead was a fork in the road. So what happened was Jesus was showing me all of these different things, and I was enjoying spending time with him. But then my eyes went off to the left, and I started to be curious about that left road over there. All of a sudden, I couldn't hear. He was standing right beside me, but I couldn't hear
Mm.
his voice like I normally would because I got distracted about that road. So then we come to the fork, and his demeanor never changed. He was so
Mm-mm.
sweet and
Oh.
loving, and it was just a wonderful thing. But I changed, right? I got anxious about something, and
Mm-hmm.
so he was like saying to me, he was just talking to me, and I remember keeping my eyes on this left road, and I pulled his hand, and I said, "I want to go this way," and he said, "No."
Mm-mm.
Just as sweet, he said, "No, I want to go this way, off to the right road."
Mm-hmm.
And I bucked up and grabbed his hand. I said, "I want to go
I
this
want
way."
to go this way.
Yeah. And you know what he did? He let my hand go,
Mm.
and he stood there. And I
Mm.
started to travel up that path by myself. And he never moved. He stood there just as calm. And he said, she has no idea what that road is getting ready to do to her.
Jesus.
And he said, when she's ready, I'm gonna be ready. When you basically, when I'm done traveling that road, he
Mm-hmm.
was
He'll
gonna
be
be
right there.
standing there. Yup. And I got out of that vision, and I was like, this is what happens to most of us.
Yes.
And he felt sad, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like he didn't go nowhere. You know, he was just standing there waiting. He was
Yeah.
waiting. And I said, if only we understood. Why do we
If
have to
only.
be in control?
Because that's our human nature and our flesh,
Yeah.
that we don't like to be told what to do. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm not going to do that. I do what I want to do because I'm grown. And and that's how we do, and we forget that we're his. We're bought with a price.
Yes.
We belong to him. And he wants it for our good, because his word says to live life abundantly, not the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes, he
It's his
does.
deception that he throws in. It's just his deception and distractions, and what shines and glitters catches our eye, and we're like, oh, and you know basically most of the things that I only wanted because I seen that somebody else had it.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
never seen it, I wouldn't want it. And so we have to realize that God is for us.
You said,
He's not against us. He's not.
yes, you just said a key thing, because you making me think about Eve. I don't know if you know this or not, but Eve had her eye on that tree. Okay. She saw on that fruit. She saw that
Uh-huh.
fruit, and she desired to
She did.
have wisdom. She desired to have more, as if she didn't have it in her already.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really do study Eve, she messed up because the enemy knew she needed more.
She
She
needed
needed
more.
more,
That's
and
my
she
story.
fell for yep, she fell for that trap, and she said, "Oh, I was deceived." And by now you have to pay the price for what you just done. And
Yes.
it hurt God, to see that they was disobedient. But I
Yeah.
really believe that God knew it was going to take place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy how the grace of God covers us. And I keep, feeling in my spirit, if we only knew that the grace of God, because he knows our sinful nature. After Eve
Yes, it
fell,
does.
after Adam fell, we inherited a sinful nature that we have to fight against. This is going to be
Yeah.
a
Forever.
forever battle. Yeah, battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we have to understand that the temptation is going to come.
Yes.
The desire is going to be there, but just like God told Cain, he says sin is knocking at your door, and
Yes.
you have to defeat that. You have to overcome that sin.
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to your story, shortly after you heard all of the chatter, and you just
Yes.
felt like everybody knew, something happened to you, and you ended up really acting out of character, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I
And
did.
your next story, or your next part, is you ended up snapping and you went to prison.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. It was just trying to keep your composure, you know, because we like to, you know, put on these masks that everything's okay. You know, nothing didn't hurt me. I'm fine. I'm great. But I wasn't. I needed love. I needed someone to hold me and tell me it's okay. I needed to know that forgiveness was mine as well. You know, I needed to know these things, and I would go home and I would cry in my pillow just and scream so loud because it was eating me up inside. It was like a cancer that kept eating me up, and I was slowly dying from the inside. So me and my sister, we didn't have a great relationship at all. I'm not sure if I had any great relationships with my brothers and sisters as far as closeness. So she was waiting for a phone call, and I was washing the dishes, and it just all spiraled because I was just at my wit's end. You know, I even wanted her to talk to me to say, "Are you okay?" That's all I wanted to hear. I wanted somebody to ask me, was I okay? And for some reason, we got in an argument. And the thing she said was, that's why you're an word whore, and everybody knows what you did. And at that moment, that was not what I needed. That only put more on the branches, and that broke it. That is what broke me, because for one thing, that was family. And so I was washing this, and I was throwing the dishes, but it was butter knives, and I didn't know where I was throwing them. I was just throwing them because I was angry. How could she? How could she? She's my sister. And I ran upstairs, not even knowing if I hit her or not with them. And I ran upstairs, and I was just so angry, so mad, and I was crying. I was yelling, like, what is going on? What? Why? You know, and the next thing I know, there were police at the door, and they had come upstairs, and I had my little Taz doll. I used to love Taz, Tasmanian devil. But I was holding him, and I was just, and I heard this voice say, "Put your hands behind your," and I'm like, I turn around, and and I didn't. I grabbed my Taz doll, and next thing I know, I was staring down the barrel of a gun, and I was being taken, handcuffed, and put into the back of a car. As I was going out, my mom was screaming, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I just called you to calm her down." And when I heard that, I felt betrayed.
Yes. Yeah.
I felt betrayed. Even though my mom thought she was doing great, in my mind, I was betrayed, and I didn't care anymore. And so I went to prison, and I spent my time in there and waited for my court date. And me again, I was like, in this whole nother world. I hadn't been there. So why am I happy, and why am I excited? You know, I was going places, whatever. It sounds crazy, but this is my mind acting foolish. And so one day they had called for us to go to church. And I said, church, that was familiar to me. Church, sure, I'm going to go to church. And I had stayed in there. I had my 24-hour lockdown. So I, you know, was able to go to church. And so I got in the line. I just flew right in the line. And we went into this room, and there was a pastor lady in there. There's a couple chairs, and they were singing, and I'm up there like, yay, you know, singing and everything. And she started to preach. I really didn't even hear much. It felt like I drifted. But at the end, she said, "Does anybody want to come up for prayer?" And so I got up, just naturally went up there, and there was a couple people in front of me. And then next thing I know, I came up, and she stood and she stared at me. And she said, "Anointed one, this is not your end." And I felt that. I felt that. And she just began to pray. And next thing I know, I fell back into an encounter with the Lord. Didn't know if I could fall back, but it was real. And the people, and I laid on the floor, and it was just for a little while, because you can't do that. So that I got picked up. but it was just, she said, anointed one, this is not your end. She didn't even know me. And she was staring at me when I came up there and like, wow. And, and from that day, I found a little bit of joy. I found a little bit of joy, like a piece of me came back. And so I was awaiting to get out, waiting to go home. And I finally did go to my trial, and I was released to my mother. And so that's the end of that one.
How long did you stay in prison?
I think I was there for a week or so.
Yeah, so at that point, you still, like you said, you were like, this is a different place.
I don't know. I always had some type of joy just that kept my mind from going to the point of depression.
Yeah.
Because I suffered with that, and so it was Jesus. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So you get back home, and did things change in the household, or?
I literally had to go. I came home with my mom, but I had to go live with my sister. I mean, my older sister, because her, my sister was there, and I couldn't have contact with her.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, I couldn't have contact with her, and I ended up, I didn't even get a break, because I think it was more of my senior year, I believe. And so I went to school the next day. Like, I just been absent for a week, and I went to school, and it was just strange. And I changed myself too. I had on contacts. It was like I was trying to hide myself. To top it all off, I got called down, and they said that I couldn't be in the school because my sister was in there. And I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to tell my mom, because she was already, it was too much for her. And so I just walked around the halls. And there's this teacher, and I'm going to say his name because he deserves the credit, Mr. Rowland. And he came out of his classroom, and he said, Betty, what are you doing roaming the halls? You can't do that. And he said, that's not like you to be doing something like that. And he said, are you okay? That's all I wanted. I literally cried and released. And he said, okay. He told his class he will be back. He walked around with me, and I began to tell him, what was transpiring in my life. And they said that, I can't graduate because I can't be in school because my sister is here. And I said, I would never hurt my sister. And, I was crying, and, this man only knows that me as his student. He took me down to the office, and he was like my lawyer, and he fought for me. He said great things about me. It was just like, I was looking at him like as my father. I never had a father, but I had a father, but I didn't grow up with my father. And, he fought my battle, and he won. And I got to stay in school, and I will never forget him for taking a chance on me, and, seeing somebody that I didn't see in myself. The things he said about me, that I was great, that I was going to be somebody, and, you can't take this away from her. She has great things ahead of her. And it was just so amazing how it just turned out. And then I was able to graduate and everything, graduate with, more credits than I needed, and it was amazing. And, God always has somebody in your corner, even when you think you're by yourself. God always has somebody there. We're not alone. We're not alone. We're never alone. If we push people away, yes, we're going to be alone, but God doesn't allow us to be alone. He's always has somebody there.
Yeah, it's so funny because, we go through so many different challenges, and, the word says that God is fighting for us. He's continually fighting for us, and we don't understand how God can fall, how his spirit can fall on someone that maybe doesn't even know the Lord. But
And I don't know because he was I'm telling you, he had a ponytail. He would always wear biker jeans and everything, and
oh,
he was just the cool teacher riding on his bike to school and everything. And so I don't know if he knew him or not. I just knew that, he was used that day.
yes, yes. And that's an awesome thing because that what you said that you needed is what he gave you
Hmm.
through that opportunity. Somebody fighting for you, somebody, sowing that speaking life over you, basically saying you're gonna be okay. You have great things ahead of you, no
Yes.
matter what you had experienced. You needed somebody to fight for you. I really believe that was God fighting on your behalf.
Also, in walking, I met my son's father. Um, I was walking through the halls, and this guy came out. He had asked me, out before, but I had just got out of prison. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't even know who I was. And so, he was of a different race. So, and so I was like, no. And then he seen me again and just walked out of the classroom, and came and approached me, and I started to date my son's father. And so it was, kind of what I needed because I was just searching again. Sure, that's what I did. And so I ended up getting pregnant by him. And when I told him, we actually got in a car accident because we were driving, and I had told him to come pick me up. I was at my mom's house. I didn't get an abortion. Thank you, Jesus. I was never doing that again.
Yeah.
And he came and picked me up. And it's crazy, if I would have told my mom, it would have been all right. But that fear. But this time I wasn't going to let that fear, because I was not. And so when I went to go, it was hard, but it was better than what I did before. And so
Mm-hmm.
I came to pick him up, and I turned and I looked at him and I said, I'm pregnant. And he looked over like, and next thing I know, we were in the back of another car.
Oh my, that is funny.
It's so funny. And he reached over, he said, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And so we went and we talked about it. It was different. It was so different. And we talked about it. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And the first thing I did, I said, I am not getting an abortion. I said, I said, those words better not come out of your mouth. I said, I'll leave you right now. And, it was still in me, and I was letting it out. And I spoke up this time. And he said, I wouldn't ask you to do that. And I said, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes, I ended up having my first son. But, when we don't deal with things that are already inside of us, when we keep pushing forward and allowing, keep going on in life and not dealing with what's inside, then it causes a barrier when you really need to love. Because my son, when I seen him, I loved him, but I looked at him and I said, what am I supposed to do? There was this person that needed my love, but I also needed love myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to give him what I was searching for myself.
Right.
It was hard, and there's this little person that wanted. And I'm like, my life had changed, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to give it to him because I didn't know how to be love and know how to give love and receive it. His birth was the greatest thing of my life, but I wish, I would have dealt what was inside first, so that
Yeah.
I could have given him what he really needed.
Yeah. This happens to a lot of young girls, same for me. Same for me, like after I had my first child,
Uh,
um, his eyelashes was so long, girl. He was just such a pretty baby. And his father, that was his first son, second
mhm.
child, and it was my first son. And he was so loved. He was so spoiled. And I remember a friend of mine, her mom, when he first came home from the hospital, I was holding him like this, right?
Right.
She was like, yeah. She was like, you need to hold hold him close so he can, and
I got him.
yeah, So I was like, okay, and being that my mom left, being that there were some issues with me and his father,
Yeah.
I knew it was like I kind of felt like you still needed more. You didn't know
Hmm.
how to love, you didn't know how to give love,
Right.
and your life begins, but your whole life changes now, because now you're responsible for a little baby. And
Yeah.
a lot of my friends, I remember having a conversation with them years ago. They were basically saying, you changed, you can't give up your whole life because you have a child. And I was like, oh yes, I can.
Yeah. Right.
I really didn't want to be out there in
Mm.
that type of world. I just wanted somebody to love me and pay attention to me, just love me for who I was. And
Yes.
going to these different events, like we used to go out to pin relays, and before I even graduated from high school, we were going out to Dell State partying and stuff like that. So
Right.
I was already a step ahead. And I
Right.
was like, I don't want this stuff. The attention was too much, because
Hmm.
it didn't matter where I went. I guess the way that I was shaped as a female, everybody was like, "Oh, look at her, look at her." And I'm
Yep.
like, too much,
Too
and it,
much.
it was a little scary at times, and
Yes.
being half dressed, having tattoos. I got a tattoo at the age of 17 illegally, then I got my second tattoo, just stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was just that time. Everybody wanted a tattoo. And it
Yeah.
was just like, I remember coming home and my dad said for the first time, "Are you okay?
Mm.
Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're getting yourself into?"
Thank
And I'm
you.
like, "Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But he never sat down and had a conversation with me. He couldn't give me what I needed because he was a man. Like I needed a mom. I
Mom.
needed a
Yep.
mom to tell me, "Hey, this is how a young girl needs to act." It's just funny when after you have a child, your whole life changes, and then
Your whole life.
you realize that your mentality needs to change. The partying needs to go. You're responsible for another life, and that
Yes.
somewhat that baby brings you the love that you're looking for, but even still you need more.
More.
And it's crazy. So you had your first child,
Yes.
um and I know that it's so much more. When did you I feel like at one point of your life, and I could be wrong, but I feel like at one point in your life you were saying that you felt like people were saying that you should be admitted to a mental institution or something like that.
Yes.
um
Yes.
you know how did you get it? See, I think I told you the battle's in the mind.
Yes, it is. It is.
How did you get through all of these negative things that was just spoken over your life?
Well, at first, I did go to a few institutions because um, when I went to go talk to people, I thought that that was my safe zone and I could say how I felt. But when I said how I felt, they either gave me medicine, they said, well, we have to put you in the institution because you can't say things like that. But I was expressing how I felt and saying the things that were locked up inside. And so that's why I kept it locked up even more, because the people that were supposed to help me didn't end up helping me. They labeled me. And even when I went to the mental institutions, I know I didn't belong there. I would watch the people. That was not where I belonged. I wasn't like that. But I was hurting inside and I felt, well, they put me here. So maybe that's my truth. That's where I'm supposed to be. Well, this is who they say I am. So this is how I'm supposed to act, and things of that nature. But when I realized that I just needed to let go of the hurt, of the shame, and the things that had me bound and in prison in my mind, in my heart, just all over. Those things that had me prisoner. When I faced it and realized that I am not those things, there was a freedom and a peace that took place. But the thing about it, now I have a label that the world gave me. But I also have a label that God gave me that said I am redeemed. I am restored. I am healed. I am set free, and I am delivered. And those are the labels that I choose to carry, not the ones that people placed on me because they didn't understand. So
It's a choice, right?
it is a choice. It is a choice. You know, it's strange because I learned that we spend most of our lives striving for joy that God gives so freely. We spend most of our time seeking the love of a human being when we can't find our purpose in life is not found in a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Searching for meaning and purpose in a human being is, you know, we can't find that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I felt so empty and so lost is because where God was trying to do what he needed to do in me, he was trying to let me know that I love you, and I didn't accept the Father's embrace. I was
Yes.
searching for a love that no human being could feel,
Yes.
not even my husband. And I thought, you know, I got married and he is such a wonderful man. I'm so blessed. And I got married, but I still had my baggage. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was still searching, and I was like, why isn't he not loving me the way, why doesn't this feel, you know, I'm supposed to get married. Everything's supposed to just go away now. You know, I'm not supposed to deal with anything. No, that was not the case. You have
Reality
to
check.
reality check. You have
Mm-hmm.
to deal with what's within. You know, he couldn't give me, you know, I even, you know, stepped out because I thought, you know, was not what I wanted. You know, this is not, you know, he can't give me what I need. And I tell you, playing with fire can get you burnt very
Yeah.
bad. You
Yeah.
know, emotionally, physically, just it's not worth it. But you know, that was another journey and a road that I took on my own. You know, it's not what God wanted for me. He just wanted me to sit down with him and let him love me. You know, he
Yes.
just wanted to love me, show me love, and let me be loved. But I was searching for the thing that was right in front of me and caused a lot of storms, a lot of storms.
So how do you receive today? Because you're walking in forgiveness. Um,
Yes.
how do you know, for females that may have been through some of the things that you've been through, what can you say to them in regards to their self-worth, and the love of God? Like, if somebody was to come to you and say, you know, I really feel like nobody loves me, what would you say to that person?
I would tell them that I've definitely been in their shoes, and I've definitely felt unloved, unworthy, you know, but those are things, lies, because the word says that I am loved, that you
Yes.
are loved, you
Yes.
know. And sometimes I was reading a thing that says to forgive is to set the prisoner free and to realize that the prisoner was you.
Yeah.
I had to forgive myself for all the things, you know, that happened. And I had to forgive the people that hurt me, the people that did those things in my life that, you know, told me that I was nothing, told me lies, told me that, you know, I would never amount to anything, or, or I was fast, or just things that people said, I wasn't good enough, wasn't pretty enough, and I had to say, I forgive them. And then while I let that forgiveness flow out of me, then I had to let it flow back into the side of me to forgive myself,
Mhm.
and know that I am worth it. I
Mhm.
am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am all the things that God says I am. I can, I shall, and I will, with God. And you have to love who you are in this moment, in this time, and try your hardest to know and believe. It's not going to happen overnight. If it does, then to God be the glory,
Yeah.
but it's a daily walk.
Mhm.
There's sometimes I have to get up and I have to say, you know what? If God is for me, then who can be against me?
Mhm.
The weapon may form, but the word said it's not going to prosper. It may
Mhm.
take the shape. You might see it right in front of you, but it's not
Mhm.
going to prosper. It's not going to take you out. We have to believe what the word says and not the world.
Yeah.
We have to choose God over our religion.
Yes.
He doesn't want all those things that we're trying to impress him. We're trying to do these things. God just wants us to love him and spend time with him. I in my life I try to be so much, try to, smile through it all, because everybody, you're always smiling. When I told people, I did, end up in the mental institution, they said, no, you're not, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not sick. I've never known you even act that way. And I'm like, yes, because that, that mask that was up, you know, it's going to be okay. Even, but God was working with me, because even through my hurt and my pain, I was ministering to somebody else. I said, well, it's going to be okay. And while I was still hurting inside, I'm like, I'm telling people stuff. Why don't I believe it? And that was my problem. I didn't believe for myself, but I believed for everybody else.
Mhm.
You know, Today, I wrote a book. It should be coming out
What?
soon. Yes, I wrote a book. I had turned 40 years old. And even though I had got my nursing degree, I'm a nurse, and I've done many things. I cried on my 40th birthday, and I said, what did I do with my life? You know, I said, I didn't do anything. I said, and I talked to God, and I said, God, I don't even feel pleasing in your sight. I haven't done anything. And I cried and I cried. And when everybody had went, home, I had cried afterwards. And I was sitting to myself, and it was like he said, right. I was like, what? Right. And I literally went to bed. I didn't hear God. And so I literally went to bed, woke up the next morning, got a pen and a paper, and it began to flow like a river, just
Mm.
out of me. And out of writing came some deliverance and some healing. Out of writing, the things that happened to me, it didn't hurt anymore while I was writing it. And I was smiling and I was laughing. Oh my gosh, thank God that happened. And no, not thank God that it happened. Thank God that I made it through it, you know, because I literally shouldn't be talking to you. I literally shouldn't be sitting here, you know, telling you guys, with a smile on my face, because the storms have been so many that it was like I could never get a grip, a hold. And
Mhm.
so anyway, I wrote a book, and I sent it to the people, and the guy read it, and he wrote back, and it was saying, I said, battle a long road ahead, battling the storms. And he said, I wish you would change the title to Meant for the Storms. He said, because when I read your book, he said, I wanted to come hug you. He said, and I really needed to see who you were and how you could have made it through all of that. And I looked and I said, but God, because I wouldn't have made it, I couldn't made it in my own strength. There was no way
Mhm.
I could have done anything in my own strength. God was
Mhm.
always there.
Mhm.
He was always, saying, daughter, no, this way. I have so much more for you. I know what it looks like. I know what's in front of you. I know you can see it, but don't focus on what's in front of you. Look up and see where I'm taking you, because it's farther than you think. That's just a distraction. These storms that whirl around, these are distractions to keep us from our purpose, because God has more for us. And so if we get focused on the storm, then we're missed out of where we're going. And so that's literally what I would say. Stay focused on God. I know what it looks like. I know there's a storm right in front of you. I know you may not be able to pay this. I know you may feel like this. I know you feel depressed. I know you feel that things aren't going in your favor. But guess what? The word says, this is my favorite scripture, that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. All things, that's good and bad. It doesn't matter. We have to go through some things. We're going to go through some things, but God is going to work it out for our good. And my other scripture is Philippians 3:14. I count myself to not have made it. I haven't made it. But this one thing I do, I'm forgetting that those things that are behind me, that past, those things that try to stop me from moving forward, I'm forgetting those things, and I'm looking forward and I'm moving forward to a higher calling in Jesus Christ. And that's what I do. That's why I smile, because I know it, ahead of me is so much more. I look back just to see how far God has brought me from and to give him thanks. But I keep moving forward, knowing that there's greater.
Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Wow. That is
God be
awesome.
the glory.
I know. And I know it's so much more that
It is. It
I
is.
know it's so much more, because we shared a little bit of things in the past, and I know I haven't heard them come out yet, but I didn't know that you wrote a book. What is your book? Okay, so what did you actually title it to be?
I titled it the long road ahead, battling the storms.
Battle.
That's
Okay,
my
so you didn't change it when he said meant to.
I haven't changed it yet. And but
You
I
don't
think
you don't gotta change it, girl. You don't gotta change it. You
but
wrote the book, so you
at
write it.
the end of my book, I could not even write the end.
Mm,
I wrote to be continued, dot, 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 dot. And so
wow.
there's another book already in me. I just haven't sat down to literally start writing, and I actually can, because it's there. It's just, and it's flowing, and it just goes in my mind, and I was like, can I just get the first one out? Can I read it?
Thank you for watching Daughters of the King. We appreciate your support. You can reach me at www.dotking.org. That's www.dotking.org. You can subscribe or send a message through live chat, or you can send an email to Catherine, Kathryn, at dotking.org. This ministry is designed to speak to your heart. Feel free to share your thoughts about the message or give insight on a topic that you would like for me to discuss. We are here for you.